Hello, I'm Jerry Goldstein with the Florida Small Business Development Center in Pensacola, Florida. We're here today to discuss business continuity and preparing for a disaster. We have seen a lot of businesses over the last 40 years, and many of them are very profitable businesses, except in the case when there is a disaster. Many of them don't survive. What do they need to do in order to ensure survivability? We see that 5 mistakes that many business owners make. Trying to go it alone. You need to enlist all of the people that are involved in your business, whether that's a husband or a wife or employees, cross-departmental heads that are prepared to help you stay in business in the event of a disaster. Overlooking the human aspect of recovery, we all need our employees. What roles do those employees play, and how will they be prepared in the event of a disaster? Not testing a broad range of scenarios. Here in Florida, we're used to hurricanes. In California, it's earthquakes. We recently had a tornado in Pensacola, and that is a very unlikely scenario. Would you be prepared in the event of an unlikely scenario? Not having a data backup plan. You need to store your data off-site. With today's technology, you can store that information in the cloud. You can have alternate sites with servers that have backup data for your businesses, or even hard drives that can be utilized in an off-site location. Considering the backup plan a one-time event. If you've prepared for a disaster a year ago or even 6 months ago, data changes. You need to have a constant updating method of keeping your data up to date so that when you need it, it's available. Business planning for disaster recovery takes a series of questions that you need to ask yourself, and are you prepared? What do I need to do business? Well, how does your business operate? Are you a service business? Are you a restaurant? Each of those businesses would have a different type of approach to being able to stay in business. Who are my most important customers? What if your customers are having the same problems that you are? Can you help them? Can you survive? Can you help them survive? Who are my essential employees? Is every employee an absolute critical process of your business? Are they prepared to help you stay in business? Your employees also have problems in the event of a disaster. Many of them will have homes that may be destroyed, roads that cannot be traveled. Can you survive? And what employees are essential to the critical mission of your business? What disasters am I vulnerable to? I just mentioned here in Pensacola we had a tornado. I don't know if we've ever had a tornado, but the disaster was incredible and many businesses were affected. Are you prepared for the type of disaster that could hit your area? When we talk about records, there is a host of records that you need, a laundry list, and I've prepared a list here to help you have your records in a place if you need them. There's other people that also that are going to need them, such as insurance companies, banks, but here's a list that you should have. That you need past tax returns, insurance policies, inventory list, receipts for equipment, photos of insurable interest, lease and or mortgage documents, payroll records, bank statements, your most recent profit and loss statements, customer list, contacts of suppliers, contracts and purchase orders, utility accounts, your phone, your internet, electrical, water and sewer, a complete list of all passwords, backup data files and software that's critical to your business, and credit card statements. This is a voluminous list, and unfortunately, there is an app that can help you organize this entire process of planning for disaster. It is known as Bizaster, and it is a downloadable app.
Hello everyone, my name is Brian Van Hook and I'm the Associate Director of the Florida Small Business Development Center at Florida International University. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about disaster resiliency, disaster preparedness, but more importantly about a tool that we've developed that's going to help you save time, hopefully save money, save your operations in terms of a disaster. This is a mobile application that we developed called Bizaster. This is an application that's no cost. It's available in English and Spanish, and this application is something that can really help you respond to a disaster, but also jumpstart operations if something bad does happen. In terms of the application, I mean, think about this. You spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money building up your business. If in terms of a disaster, that's something where you want to put a little bit of that time into disaster preparedness. You know, protect your assets, protect your employees, protect, you know, what you built over all these years. So in terms of our application, I'm going to walk you through kind of what's the background, what's the reason that we developed it, but I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about how you can utilize it for your business. When I talk about a disaster, most people think this image. So most people, especially here in Florida, in South Florida, we talk about disaster, that's what you think about. A hurricane, a tropical storm, you think tornado, you think earthquakes. You don't think about other types of disasters that can impact your business. What we call those is business interruptions. You want to think of a disaster versus a business interruption. So this is what you think about when you see a disaster, but actually this is something that you should actually think about in terms of what can impact your business. Everywhere in Florida, everywhere across the United States, you have road construction, you have traffic, you have power outages, you have a lot of different things that can impact your business. A lot of businesses don't think about those. What they think about is the big, large-scale disaster. So what we've done is we've developed this mobile application called Bizaster that's going to help you think about some of those different types of risk to your business, prioritize those in terms of what the potential impact is, and then also take some steps to mitigate the risk involved with those business interruptions. So you're thinking about, you know, a road construction. What are some things you can do to mitigate road construction in your area? What are things you can do to mitigate a power outage, such as buying a generator? And in terms of that impact, you know, we talk about the impact for businesses. Is a lot of the businesses impacted after a disaster, they have trouble reopening. Also, the Institute for Home and Business Safety talked about how for a business being down can cost them up to $3,000 per day. You know, if you're Walmart, if you're Sony, if you're Target, $3,000 isn't a big deal. But if you're a small business, that's a big deal to you, and that adds up over time. So what we're here to do is to talk to you about whether it's a simple power outage, whether it's flooding, road construction. These are things that can impact your business and jeopardize your operations. And we don't want to just talk doom and gloom. What we want to do is talk to you about some different tools and resources that are available to avoid risk or mitigate those risks. The tool that we have is called Bizaster. Bizaster incorporates a lot of different disaster preparedness strategies into the resources that are available. That includes risk management, contingency planning, emergency preparedness, disaster recovery planning, and also succession planning. That's something to think about for your business. You know, you think about disasters, but what about one of your key employee leaves? Or one of the principals in the business, you know, has health conditions or something, that could also impact your business. So before I get to the application itself, I just want to take a minute and talk to you about some of the strategy and some of the thinking that went into this application. Basic fundamental disaster preparedness is to think about what makes your business run. You know, who makes your business run, what makes your business run, where do your operations occur. You want to think about your business in terms of the operations. What are critical operations? What are essential operations? What are non-essential? Because I can guarantee you if a disaster happens, you're going to find out what is critical pretty quick, what is not essential pretty quick. And you want to think about those essential and critical operations. You want to think about how long could your business survive if those operations are down 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. That helps you basically prioritize in terms of the different resources that you would put towards that. But also, when do you need those things to be up and running? What's your recovery time objective to get your payroll back up and running, to get your phones back up and running, your internet? You can prioritize in terms of those different resources. So actually, let's talk about the application itself. What we did is we have a mobile application that's available. What we did is we took a lot of the resources that we've already developed over the years. So we actually took, you know, different guidebooks that we've been made available. This one's actually a toolkit that's 30 pages on disaster preparedness. We also took different resources such as tabletop exercises, different checklists and things like that. We basically put all this into the app. So that way you can use it on your mobile device, your tablet. You don't have to flip through a bunch of papers. You don't have to get paper cut. You don't have to fool with it and keep track of them. You can actually put it into a mobile device or a tablet, and you could utilize that quickly. Bizaster is actually a mobile application that was developed in partnership with USAID and the FIU Extreme Events Institute. This application was made available to us at the Florida Small Business Development Center network because we were one of the principal creators as well. And actually it's available in the App Store. It's also available on Google Play. Basically, Bizaster allows business owners to better prepare their business. It allows you to jumpstart operations after a disaster. It also allows you to respond immediately after a disaster. And that includes like risk assessments, that includes tabletop exercises, that includes checklists, that includes different templates for letters to get back into a disaster area. So it's actually really helpful in terms of getting your business prepared. So I just showed you kind of the quick demo version, but actually, since you're taking the time to listen to this video, let me actually give you a really quick walkthrough of some of the key features to Bizaster. So you'll see here, I have Bizaster loaded. The first screen you're going to see is basically the initial questionnaire. What this does is this allows you to put in some basic information about your business, also to kind of help you think through some of these different things that you're going to need to incorporate into the application, into some of the checklists and other things. But also for the application, putting in some of this information also helps us as the developers in terms of better targeting the different resources that we're providing, such as the location, geographic locations people are using, and also what are the basic fundamentals of some of those businesses. Do most of them rent their business? Do they have insurance? So you're going to see this. So basically, you're going to go through, you're going to put your region. So you just scroll down, put North America. You would click your country. You would just type in USA. Okay. Then you'd put your state. So then you would also enter your city. Then you would go to the next page. What's your sales? What are critical operations part of your business? Such as computers. Every business needs computers. Every business needs telephones. Every business needs internet. Most businesses have inventory. Most businesses have an online contact list or a CRM. So you put that. It also includes information such as how long can you withstand an interruption to these critical functions. Is that 24 hours? Is that 48 hours? Let's just say 72 hours. We're better prepared. Okay, then some basic other questions. How long have you been in business? What category describes your business? Are you retail? Are you manufacturing? Are you finance and insurance? How many employees do you have? Depending on these type of information that you put in there, that could impact your disaster preparedness planning. So if you're a larger business, you obviously have more things to worry about. If you're a smaller business, you might have different priorities. Do you rent or do you own your building? Most people rent. And then the last question was, do you have insurance? So you can basically put in a lot of your different insurance that you have, business interruption, flood insurance. And then lastly, the important question is, do you already have a disaster preparedness plan? Let's say we don't know. And then you continue. Then once you continue, you're into the app. You're going to see that the app is divided into 3 categories. The first category is Get Prepared, the second category is Respond, and the third category is Recover. So let's go for Get Prepared. Up here in the corner, you actually have the opportunity where you can save documents to your mobile device. You can go back and you can print those. Also, we have links to different resources. We also have other things that you can upload. So under My Documents, I don't have any available right now, but we're going to do some stuff so we can go back. So under Get Prepared, it has kind of some background information, some tips, and then it divides it into different sections. So the one section I want to show you guys is the risk assessment. This is something that's very basic in terms of disaster preparedness. It's something that's most helpful to businesses. It just identifies all the risks that your business could see. So we're going to click on Evaluating Potential Risks. Under this, it has some background for you, just talks about some different scenarios, some different things to think about. But basically what you can do at the bottom is you click on the risk assessment table. And in the table, you can actually create different risks. And so what you would do is, for example, you would pick a risk. There's a drop-down menu. So you can say, you know, obviously we're in Florida. Let's talk about something that a lot of folks don't think about, supplier failure. So we just put in supplier failure as the risk at the top. The frequency, it's low frequency, so it might not happen that often. But if it does happen, that could severely impact your business, especially if you're retail, you know, if you have key suppliers you depend on. Then you click Done. And then what you can do is you can also add in a control, something that you can do to mitigate risk from that, what you just identified. So, for example, under Control, it already has alternate suppliers, backup inventory, or you can add a custom control. Let's just do this. Let's click both of those. And then what you do in the top is you save. So you'll see we did that. So basically we added one. The frequency for supplier failure is low. Severity is high, but we've already put in alternate suppliers and also backup inventory. Let's do one more. So you can click another risk. So basically you drop down. Let's talk about internet outage. Okay, so we got internet outage. Frequency. Let's say we live in an area where that happens a lot. Severity. Let's say if we're an internet-based business, the impact on our business would be pretty high, so the severity would be high. So you'll click Done. And then basically it already has a control that's input data backup in multiple formats. So let's check that. So we'll save it. So you'll see basically right now we've already got 2 risks that are identified with different steps that we can take to mitigate those risks. So that's one thing. Another thing you can also do is we have a preparedness checklist included in here. And under this preparedness checklist, it also has like a tabletop exercise. So what you can do is you can go through and basically identify different things that you've already done. So you can say, we've already identified an internal shelter, in this case we have to shelter in place. You can document each employee's function and emergency contact information. That's what most businesses do as a basic, basic action. You can create a phone tree. And let's say, for example, you don't have a facility that has the likelihood of clients being in there if there's a disaster. You wouldn't check that. But you want to keep a copy of your customer records on-site and off-site. Maintain a list of alternate suppliers. And for a lot of businesses we work with, if you're renting or leasing, you want to know what the building's evacuation procedures are, what the evacuation routes are. So you would click on that, and you basically click Save. But see, under that, you can save it to the device, you can print it, or you can also email it to yourself. So let's save it. So now that we saved it, it's going to give you a thing that says it saved it to your device. So now you can go back, and you can actually see these documents that are saved here. And you can actually print that out. Okay? So let's go under one other section. One of the things for response is an important thing is crisis communications. It's in terms of like communicating to your clients, to your customers, to your partners, also to your employees. So what we included in here is a checklist on crisis communications. So what you can do is you can actually go through and you can find some different things to think about, and you can check them off when you did them. So what you can do is you can talk about how don't make off-the-record statements, present information clearly and calmly with no jargon, no acronyms, no technical terminology. You can check off some different things. Be informed and respond fast. And then what you can do is you can also save that checklist to your device as well. Let's talk about social media. We also have a checklist included in here that relates to social media. Basically talks about basic things about social media, establishing a presence before the disaster, so that way you have success after the disaster. Basically, only providing critical information, be conscious towards the sensitivity and the gravity of the disaster, choose your words carefully, basically don't post for a long period of time. That's something you don't want to do. You want to be responsive, you want to be quick in terms of social media. You also want to monitor social media. You want to track the internet. You want to see if there's any trends, any mentions of your business, anything you can respond to. And then also correct the record. If something's not correct, you want to be out there and correct it. So what we can also do is we can save that to our device. And then one last thing I want to talk about is recovery. Like one of the key things for businesses is getting access to the disaster area. So one of the things that we've incorporated in here is basically a template for you to draft a letter authorizing staff to get into the disaster area. It's called a credentialing letter. So a lot of different states have different procedures. Here in Florida, we have certain procedures that we've modeled this on. But what you can do on this letter is you can basically go, and it's a sample letter of authorization. So you can input basic information, your company name, your employee name, your company address, when does it expire? And then when you put in all this information, you save it. It's got you a draft letter that you can basically provide to your employee. And what they would do is they would keep that letter on hand, and then if a disaster happened, they would say, my name is Brian Van Hook, and I'm authorized to get into the Florida SBDC at FIU building, at 1101 Brickell Avenue in Miami, Florida. So that way the police and the local officials know that you are supposed to be in that area and what's your purpose for being in the area. So that was a quick overview of the Bizaster app. Lastly, what I wanted to do is I also wanted to, we're not territorial. We have a very good app, we think, in terms of disaster preparedness. It has a lot of resources in there, but there are also other disaster preparedness apps that are available. So I did want to just provide that information to you, including like the Red Cross has a variety of different disaster preparedness apps. FEMA also has an app that's available that has a lot of information on FEMA information, FEMA shelters, disaster alerts. Also, there's different hurricane trackers and emergency radio. The FEMA and the Red Cross apps have no cost to them. Some of the other applications, they do have a cost. But we wanted to provide that for your information. And obviously, the Bizaster app is also available if you're a business and you want to work on your disaster planning effort.
I realize that we have covered an awful lot in a very short period of time, and the voluminous task of preparing for a disaster is a very difficult and arduous process. Fortunately, Small Business Development Center has offices throughout the state of Florida. I recommend that you contact a local office and use a consultant that can help you through this process. It will ensure that your possibilities of staying in business in the event of an unlikely disaster or an unplanned disaster will help you be better prepared.